Okay, noobs. Today, I'm going to instill upon you knowledge that can be used for evil or for good. It is making your tracks loud. Now, this is a very, very interesting topic because, of course, you have what is the so-called loudness wars. And basically, everybody wants to make their track as loud as everybody else's. So, what people call this is like a lot of people call this mastering. Now, mastering is an older term. It's used for mastering records or full albums. But now people want to know how to master their tracks. So, we're just going to go with that. We're just going to call it mastering today. First of all, the first thing that every good master needs, like if you want to master your track good, you have to mix your track good. It starts with the mix. Now, what that entails is balance, frequency, treatment. I've gone over this in my high pass tutorials. I've done like a lot of equalization type stuff where I tell you where different parts of what instruments are where and fundamental harmonics. This is all important stuff when it comes to mixing, because if you have too many things in your bass region, it's going to swamp out your mix. Okay. So number one, to get your tracks loud, your mix has to be on. Okay. A well-balanced mix makes things louder in general. Okay. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to use two plugins to get your track loud. Okay. First, I use because Fruity Limiter and Maximus, they don't have a pre-gain. They don't have a pre-gain for their compression, so that is important for getting your track. Because I mix at a low level. I mix at -8. I have studio monitors. I just turn the volume up on my monitors. A lot of people don't have that. They have headphones, so they're always peaking up here. When you're mixing, bring your mix low, okay? This comes important because when you're doing your final master, you don't want to just bring your master down to have a low mix. You got to keep that master at 0, because then it's easier for you to put everything off at -1 decibels, which is what we need to do to get it loud. So to limit the peaks there, I mean. So, okay. First of all, here's so it's just like a dance kind of tune. So you'll notice my peaks are around -8. Okay. That's fine with me. It doesn't really matter technically, but it's easier to work with normal plugins. With the image line plugins, they're a bit difficult because like Ozone has like a pre-gain. All the Cakewalk plugins have a pre-gain, so you just turn the gain up before it hits the compressor or the limiter. And that's how they're usually supposed to work. So in this case, I'm going to put some pre-EQ. I put some EQ on it, just adjusted the breath a little bit. And I also used the gain, the main level here, as pre-gain. So it's getting a bit louder, right? Just because I turned the volume up. Now I'm going to show you how to use limiter to get your mix loud, and then I'm going to show you how to use Maximus to get your mix even louder. Okay, so basically, limiter is just, it limits the volume. I went over this in the compression masterclass. Go watch it if you don't know. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to compress the signal lightly and then limit it. Okay. And then what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to adjust the gain, because it's kind of strange. Compression, it's like the signal comes in, the limiter, in compression, then it goes out to this loudness, then it hits the gain, and then the ceiling. So it's kind of strange. But anyways, we're going to you hold control and move it down so that you get, oops, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. Take a look up in the tip bar here. We want bring it down to -1 decibels. Okay, that will ensure that you will not go over. Your clip won't peak. So we got our compression happening down here. Okay, even put that a little lower, and then ratio. I use like very minimal ratios, -3, or that's pretty powerful, but it's not like 8-to-1, you know. So I use like 3-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1. That's more than enough for what we need. We already have so much compression going on in the track already. Now we're going to limit it. So we're going to adjust the gain. So you hear that distortion happening? That's happening because of a lot of the bass. But if you want it to be super loud, reduce the release. And what that's going to do, it's going to basically start clipping your audio. So you got to be really careful with that. If you use a higher release, you'll hear the limiter ducking more. And when you use that, when you lower the release, the bass, in this case, like let's bring the bass down just a bit here and about So you hear that. You can do something like that. Let's bring it down just a bit more. I'll bring the gain down. But what's happening here is it's basically clipping off the clipping the bass a lot, because when you look at a waveform, when you like zoom into it on Wave Candy or whatever, you can see that the kick and bass are very present in that waveform, in the final waveform. So it's basically like clipping off that bass. So what we can use in this case, instead of EQing the bass down, we can use multiband compression, which is what Maximus is. Okay, so I'm going to start as default. Presets, default. Rule number 1. Do not use any of these Sound Goodizer presets. And I should probably show you why. Because like they expand the bass like before it even like, when it's like -96, it's bringing the bass up. So what it's going to do is swamp out your mix. So the Sound Goodizer is really bad for that. It just like brings up you know, like if you want to use expansion, then don't use it at 0 like this. Okay. Use expansion. Like you got to slightly gate the bass so that rumble right when it's at its lowest point won't come up. And then you can bring that expansion up more. But I'm going to show you that right now. We're going to start with default. Okay. And that's, I'm also going to put my preset in the description, so don't worry about that. But what we're going to start with is we got our pre-gain going, which is our EQ. So you can flip through all these, and this is I'll do an in-depth one, but I'm going to show you what you need to do to get this thing loud. Okay, so multi-band compression is the same as normal compression, just split up into 3 bands in this case.